vielleicht nur als Imposant.
Welcome to WION live broadcast from London. I'm Oliver Regan and these are the headlines. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's flagship Rwanda deportation bill is expected to be put on hold until at least next month after the House of Lords inflicts 7 defeats. The European Union's imports from the Chinese region of Xinjiang surges 200% in the first 2 months of this year, even as the bloc moved to finalise 2 laws aimed at tackling human rights complaints in the region. China is considering launching talks on maritime affairs with Australia as increased tension among several nations bordering the South China Sea threatens regional security. French President Emmanuel Macron releases black and white snaps of him boxing after taunting Vladimir Putin with threats of NATO troops in Ukraine. A day after the Indian government notified the fact-check unit to address the challenge of fake news, the Supreme Court pauses the notification, setting aside the Bombay High Court's go-ahead to the government's move. Susie Wolff files criminal complaint against motorsport's governing body, the FIA. This after they launched a short-lived investigation against her and husband Toto, which was prompted by an unsubstantiated media report. The UK PM Rishi Sunak's plan to deport asylum seekers to Rwanda has faced further delay. This as peers in the House of Lords voted against a number of changes to the legislation. The bill's been sent back to the House of Commons for the MPs to discuss it. This will delay the first deportation flights to Rwanda from May into June. The safety of the Rwanda bill had been debated in the House of Lords after their previous changes were dismissed by the Commons earlier this week. The Lords rejected all 7 proposed changes in the bill. Earlier on Monday, the Commons had rejected all 10 of the Lords' previous amendments. The bill will now have to be reconsidered by MPs when they return from their Easter recess on April 15th. As the legislative ping-pong continues between the two houses, it is likely pushed back the first deportation flights from May into June. The defeats leave the safety of Rwanda bill, one of Sunak's flagship policies, deadlocked between the Lords and the Commons. The legislation aims to revive the government's plan to send some asylum seekers to Rwanda. It declares the East African country is safe after deportation flights were stalled by the Supreme Court ruling that the government plan could lead to human rights breaches. Home Secretary James Cleverly has meanwhile attacked Labour for trying to delay the bill, and called for an end to the talking so the lives of migrants could be saved. The European Union's imports from the Chinese region of Xinjiang surged in the first 2 months of this year. And this comes even as the bloc moved to finalise 2 laws aimed at tackling human rights complaints there. Exports from Xinjiang, Uyghur Autonomous Region, to the EU's 27 members rose 217.8% in January and February, compared with the same period last year. The total value of those shipments amounted to be $312 million. This is a huge increase from just $98 million a year prior. The biggest buyers of goods from Xinjiang were Poland, Belgium and the Netherlands. According to Chinese customs data, the most popular goods were lithium batteries, tomato paste and miscellaneous low-value goods that fall below the threshold for customs duties. The statistics emerge as Brussels is planning a ban targeting goods made using forced labour. There is also a new law which will require EU businesses of a certain size to routinely audit their supply chains for human rights and environmental abuses. China has been accused of operating a systematic campaign of forced labour in Xinjiang, where the UN's top human rights body said that it might have committed crimes against humanity. Beijing has repeatedly denied all allegations of human rights abuses in Xinjiang. Meanwhile, the data also showed a 4.1% dip in overall EU-China trade. China's imports from the EU fell by 9.4% over the first 2 months of the year. Or that's where Beijing traditionally combines official data. The data also observes a significant decline in the shipments of goods that have drawn political attention in Europe over the alleged prevalence of state subsidies in China's industrial sector. These include electric vehicle shipments that tumbled by 32% over the 2-month period, and exports of solar photovoltaic cells from China plummeted by 54.3%. The EU has railed against this as it believes that the products create unfair competition in Europe for local operators. French President Emmanuel Macron has released black and white snaps of him boxing after taunting Vladimir Putin with threats of NATO troops in Ukraine. The buff pic seemingly playing to a strongman of Europe image after his recent remarks on the Ukraine war have gone beyond anything said by fellow European leaders. The official presidential photographer released 2 images of a sweaty French president hitting a punch bag in a gym on Instagram. They show Macron with bulging biceps as he struck the bag with gritted teeth and veins protruding. Some citizens suggested the president was trying to ape Robert De Niro in Raging Bull or Sylvester Stallone as Rocky Balboa. Others questioned whether the photos had been enhanced. Doubters pointed to the size of his biceps and reposted the boxing image alongside an image of Macron with a skinnier arm. Boris Johnson once joked G7 leaders should strip down, flex their muscles and show that we are tougher than Putin. Putin responded by stating that it would be disgusting to see Western leaders strip off and that they needed to cut out alcohol and engage in more sport. Macron's pictures were published less than a week after he suggested sending Western troops to Ukraine could not be ruled out. Speaking on French TV last Thursday, he warned that Russia was seeking to extend its power and would not stop now. Macron said, and I quote, "If we leave Ukraine alone, if we let Ukraine lose this war, then for sure Russia will threaten Moldova, Romania and Poland." There's no shortage of photos on the internet of Vladimir Putin flexing his muscles. The Russian president has been known to stage elaborate photo ops that perpetuate his strongman image. Putin has previously been photographed fishing, shooting and riding bare-chested, playing ice hockey, vanquishing his opponents at judo and riding in tanks and submarines. At the centre of Putin's macho aura is his image as a tough leader who won't let Western nations weaken Russia or dictate what Moscow's policies should look like. The US State Department has slammed China's irrational territorial ambitions. Global concern is mounting over Beijing's bid to undermine the rules-based order with a revisionist challenge of the status quo. State Department spokesperson said the US government recognises Arunachal Pradesh as part of India. Vedant Patel added Washington strongly opposes any unilateral attempts to advance territorial gains in the northeastern Indian state. India has further enhanced its military readiness through the Seller Tunnel in Arunachal Pradesh.
The United States recognizes Arunachal Pradesh as Indian territory, and we strongly oppose any unilateral attempts to advance territorial claims by incursions or encroachments, military or civilian, across the line of actual control.
With China's growing belligerence, the border with India has become a battleground for testing wills and resilience. Analysts say China's completely unfounded claims initially extended only to Tawang, a part of Arunachal Pradesh, where the 6th Dalai Lama was said to have been born. Since the 2000s, however, China has been claiming Arunachal Pradesh in its entirety. Pertinent to remember, independent India has been exercising sovereignty over it. Arunachal Pradesh became a union territory in 1972 and a state in 1987. Arunachal Pradesh is also located at the confluence of the international border of China, Myanmar and Bhutan, giving it strategic importance. This extension of territorial claims indicates a concerted strategy consistent with China's stance on the East and South China Sea disputes. Amid rising tensions in the Indo-Pacific, the US has upped its engagement in the Quad grouping. The Quad, officially the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, is a group of 4 countries: India, the US, Australia and Japan. The grouping was a concept developed by late Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe as he sought unity among 4 democracies that have seen friction with China. It's a loose grouping rather than a formal alliance. China has condemned the grouping as a move to encircle it. All 4 Quad members insist a free and open Indo-Pacific is essential. The Quad grouping has repeatedly emphasised its goal is to maintain the liberal, rules-based international order. The Quad efforts are not focused on creating institutions or military alliances.
We have upped our engagement in the Quad. Secretary Blinken has had the opportunity to engage with his Quad counterparts a number of times since just when I've been on this job, but even more when you look at since the beginning of this administration.
Hong Kong's 90-seat legislature on Tuesday unanimously passed a new national security law just 11 days after it was tabled. The move sidestepped concerns from Western governments that freedoms would be further undermined in the financial hub. Interestingly, China's state broadcaster CCTV reported the news even before it happened. CCTV beat out its competitors by posting the results of the vote on social media platforms nearly 20 minutes before council members had even started voting. China's Central Television is the predominant state television broadcaster in China. Founded in 1958, it serves as one of the chief propaganda arms of the communist government. In 2016, CCTV rebranded its international networks as China Global Television Network, CGTN. Let's now take a look at the potential impact of Hong Kong's new laws. Some experts and analysts fear the laws could further restrict the city's freedoms. Others are concerned that final laws could impact data security, while state secret provisions could hamper research and information gathering. The law creates a new sabotage offence of unlawfully using a computer or electronic system to endanger national security, punishable by 20 years in prison. The definition of state secrets appears quite broad. Lawyers says it includes military, security and diplomatic secrets, as well as classified information involving the Chinese and Hong Kong governments and their relationship. Some diplomats fear research into China's politics, economics and military and due diligence investigations could stray into areas of state secrecy. While the types of information included are wide-ranging, the law still stipulates it must be information that is secret and would threaten national security if disclosed. Hong Kong's leader, John Lee, says the law meets international standards and protects Hong Kong's rights and freedoms. In a stark warning from a UN expert, it's been revealed that the world is losing the battle against electronic waste. A recent report indicates that a staggering 62 million metric tons of mobile phones and devices were dumped on the planet in just 1 year. And unfortunately, this number is expected to surge by a third by the year 2030. Electronic waste, or e-waste, refers to any discarded items that contain an electronic plug or a battery. These items are known to often harbour toxic additives and hazardous substances such as mercury, posing significant environmental and health risks. And now scientists are stating that the rate at which the e-waste mountain is growing is surpassing the efforts in recycling.
So the vast majority of e-waste is not managed in a correct manner. And what really surprised us is that the rate at which the e-waste mountain is growing is 5 times faster than the rate at which a global recycling is, growing. So with this, current trend, we are simply losing the battle against e-waste.
In 2022, the world's annual output of e-waste has reached an astonishing 62 million metric tons. This is an 82% increase from 2010. Further, the production of e-waste has escalated by 2.6 million metric tons each year. Now there are projections which suggest that it could soar to 82 million metric tons by 2030. According to experts, a significant portion of this e-waste is not being managed effectively. And thus, most of the times it's often ending up in landfill, including smaller items like mobile phones and toothbrushes. Scientists are stressing on the need for responsibility among manufacturers to ensure that products have a longer life cycle. That will help in reducing e-waste.
The manufacturers have got responsibilities in terms of standardizing and making sure that they don't shortchange the consumer. So the product that they produce should not have a short life cycle, and that is important.
This year in January, Elon Musk's neuroscience startup Neuralink implanted a chip in a human brain for the first time. Here's the latest update. In a video streamed on X, formerly known as Twitter, the first Neuralink patient is seen using his mind to play online chess. The 29-year-old Noland Arbar was paralysed below the shoulder after an unfortunate diving incident. In a video that's now gone viral on social media, Noland is seen playing chess on his laptop and moving the cursor using the Neuralink device.
In the hospital a day later, I have no cognitive impairments. Yeah, so we started out with trying out a few different things. We basically went from what we call kind of differentiating imagined movement versus attempted movement. So a lot of what we started out with was attempting to move. So I would attempt to move, say, my right hand, left, right, forward. And from there, I think it just became intuitive for me to start imagining the cursor moving.
So how does this entire process work? Neuralink's technology mainly works through an implant called the link. It's a device about the size of 5 stacked coins that's placed in a region of the brain that controls the intention to move through invasive surgery. The aim here is to enable human brains to communicate directly with computers. In other words, Neuralink wants to build direct communication channels between the brain and computers. Its initial goal is to enable people to control a computer cursor or keyboard using their thoughts alone. Interestingly, the startup, which last year won approval from US regulators to test its brain implants in people, has grand ambitions. Its vision is to supercharge human capabilities. The startup aims to treat neurological disorders like ALS or Parkinson's. Basically, Neuralink plans to help patients overcome a host of neurological conditions. In fact, in the future, the firm could facilitate speedy surgical insertions of its chip devices to treat conditions like obesity, autism, depression, and schizophrenia. The ongoing exodus of foreign companies from Russia has resulted in $385 million in revenues in 2024 so far. This stems from an exit tax policy implemented when companies began leaving Russia after the Ukraine invasion began. The policy requires departing businesses to contribute at least 10% of their sale price to the federal budget. This tax, coupled with stricter exit procedures demanding government approval and sale discounts, has become a major source of revenue for Russia. While Western sanctions aim to cripple the Russian economy, the country appears to be weathering the initial storm. As one of the top oil exporters, combined with recent high oil prices, Russia has provided a crucial financial buffer. Additionally, evidence suggests preemptive measures such as diversification efforts and support from other strong allies help mitigate the immediate impact of sanctions. However, the long-term economic picture remains uncertain, particularly if oil prices or export volumes decline. The Russian fightback suggests that sanctions haven't had the crippling effect initially anticipated on the Russian economy. However, this is a short-term snapshot, and the long-term economic consequences of sanctions are yet to be fully understood. Moreover, Russia faces a looming demographic crisis with a declining population and workforce. These factors, coupled with potential fluctuations in the oil market, pose significant challenges to Russia's future economic stability.